We need people that want to be police officers. I would say your average training, like I read, is like about 6 months or so, 22 weeks, I guess I would say, out on the street with a FTO, which is a field training officer, for about 2-3 months. And then obviously they have to pass through, all of that first. Like, they literally have to pass through that before they're on their own. And I just think it's important to recognize that our officers are properly trained to be able to survive out there and not get killed. I think mental health and de-escalation training is important. I've mentioned this before, where if another officer sees another officer doing something, they should de-escalate them, pull them back by their belt, and say, yo, you're doing something wrong. But there was a video that surfaced from the Bodycam. A sergeant was doing something to a suspect inside of a car, and the woman cop literally pulled him back by his belt to try to be like, yo, what are you doing? Like, you're doing something wrong. I'm going to try to find the video. You would definitely see, the thin blue line, which means that they're covering for one another. And we should never have that. If another officer is doing something wrong, you shouldn't be covering for them. That's how we get bad police off the streets. And bad police need to be fired, because what that does is that makes a bad name for good police officers that are out there putting their life on the line. It gives them a bad name because they're considered a bad police officer because of that asshole. And I just think it's wrong that each officer gets painted with the same broad brush as everyone else. So let's take a look at this.
A police sergeant is under investigation after Officer Bodycam video shows him putting his hand on a fellow officer's neck. The Sunrise, Florida Police Department has released video of the November 2021 incident that now has Sergeant Christopher Police on desk duty. Sunrise's chief of police says he finds this behavior to be disgusting and says he thinks the video speaks for itself. The department has muted the sound and all the faces are blurred except for police. Bodycam video shows a suspect being placed in the back of a police car. Police leans into the car with a can of pepper spray that authorities say was out and aimed at the suspect. A 28-year-old police officer who has been on the force just over 2 years tries to de-escalate the situation by pulling the sergeant away by his belt. According to the video and Chief Rosa,
I just want to say something real quick before I continue. That woman police officer that literally grabbed that cop by the belt, we need to have more police officers like that out on the street. We just have to. We literally have to.
Police puts his hand on the junior officer's throat and pushes her backwards into another police vehicle. He walks away, then points and says something else to the other.
This is disgusting behavior from a sergeant, from a police officer like that. These are the kind of officers, ladies and gentlemen, that need to be fired and never become cops ever. And he's a sergeant. You should know better.
The officer. Sunrise Police Chief Anthony Rosa told WSVN he is very proud of this police officer. She took some definitive action. I can only imagine what she must be feeling. She's a newer officer, and he's a very senior sergeant. Broward County Public Defender Gordon Weeks wrote a letter to Chief Rosa asking him to take Sergeant Police off of desk duty and arrest him for battery. Weeks writes, "It appears as if law enforcement officers engaged in wrongdoing get different treatment as opposed to everyone else. This must not be the case." Sergeant Christopher Police was cleared of 2 previous allegations of excessive force nearly 20 years ago. The police union says police is declining to comment. This incident remains under investigation, and he has not been charged with a crime.
I wanted to show that video. It's an example of what I wanted to show everyone, that like, hey, when you see a fellow officer doing something wrong, you got to pull them back. And here's an example of an awesome woman officer that was trying to do the right thing. And it's like, dude, the sergeant puts, like, his hands around her neck. A woman officer, for that matter. That's so disgusting. It's such disgusting behavior. It pisses me off beyond belief. But I'm not going to let that bother me and say all cops are bad because of that. Like, we need to get rid of cops like that. That's the whole plan. We need to get rid of people. They need to be fired from the force. And I think that other cops need to look at other cops and make sure that they're not escalating situations and that they need to de-escalate. He literally got out of the car and grabbed her by the throat. I mean, that's just crazy. Like, I've never seen that before. She did the right thing, and we need more officers like that, that when they see police officers getting out of control, they should pull them back. And I think that's the problem right now that I have, along with better police training. We need better training. That's it. And better, like, community policing. Like, I still believe that if you're a cop, you should live in the city that you're patrolling. Like, if you work in Sunrise, Florida, you should live in Sunrise. If you're, a Montgomery County sheriff, which is like in the county that I'm in Maryland, you should live in Montgomery County. It would help if police officers actually lived in the towns that they patrol. It's important that you do that.